This should terrify the rest of the NFL, because Sam Darnold isn't just proving people wrong, he's becoming the quarterback the Seattle Seahawks always hoped they could build around. And after what was seen at minicamp, one thing is becoming impossible to ignore. This story is only getting started.
I also think that Sam Darnold is still just a young quarterback scratching the surface of what he can be. I really hate when people on the national level discredit the year that he had last year, because I think that's obnoxious. At the same time, I think he can still play a heck of a lot better. And that's what I saw in that Thursday minicamp practice. Like, I thought he was exceptional. I thought he had complete command and control. He was aggressive. He looked like it was coming easy to him. And so I do think that's the thing. You mentioned the Rams. The Seahawks are going to need to be able to be a team that can run the football. Like, not just commit to running the football, but be incredibly successful at running the football. And that's, I think, an area also where I know they did it well at the end of the year, in particular at the Super Bowl, but that's an area where I think they can also improve. Just running it consistently, run efficiency, and explosive runs. I didn't know what to expect from Brian Flores. I had heard a lot of great things from people that had coached with him when he was just a GA, quality control type coach with the Miami Dolphins, and they had said really great things. So I didn't think he could kind of live up to that. His demeanor, his intelligence, his plan was exceptional. It was impressive. I definitely know more the vision of like I think we're really going to see offensively. I don't think the league really knows, but I think, Brock, I would think you would agree, we got a good picture of what he really believes in. And Brock grilled him on terminology and what's changing and what's staying the same. And, not to give any secrets away, but like, it's not going to be exactly the same. It's not. So I think that's exciting too. And I think it's going to, again, it all flows from Mike Macdonald and his vision. And I think that's probably the most important thing here, because I do believe Mike Macdonald is the secret sauce. I think most people, and this is like one of the things that Brian Flores talked to Brock about, was just, most people try to get in this cat and mouse game with defenses where, are you going to go base personnel or are you going to go nickel personnel? Because if you're going to go nickel personnel, meaning 5 DBs, we're going to go bigger people and run it down your throat. If you're going to go base personnel, then we're going to go more of our passing personnel, and then we're going to throw it on you. And like that just goes away with the Seahawks, because they get to play so much nickel with Nicky Manwari being that nickel backer. And it's kind of like having a linebacker out there. It reminds me early in my career when Cam Chancellor was my teammate, and even Lawyer Malloy. It was like those dudes were technically DBs, but they were every bit as powerful in the run game and the blitz game. And so, like, what do we do? How do we categorize that? It doesn't fit into our spreadsheets in terms of our and so, like, and it's partly that, and then it's also Mike Macdonald inventing new ways to use Nicky Manwari and just getting creative and seeing how much he can handle. And that's what I think I've said to people over the years about Cam Chancellor. Cam Chancellor ended up being one of the greatest safeties to ever play the game, but he didn't show up that way. He was a late round pick. And he was green and he was learning. And, we had Earl Thomas, who was short and fast. And then we had Cam, who was big and strong and long. And then we had, guys like Lawyer that were kind of like showing him the way. And they were a little bit of both. And I think there's a lot of similarities there with Manwari. I mean, he's a high round pick. He played with some really talented defensive backs. They're adding a lot of young talent around him and creativity with the scheme. But it would not surprise me at all to see him even play like a quote-unquote 4-down defensive end type position, the way that Adrian Wilson for the Arizona Cardinals used to play. And now you're literally wasting offensive tackle on him. You have to like account for him as a D lineman, and he's quick and probably learning some great pass rush moves, but he could also just drop out. And now you've got your best pass protector you're paying a ton of money to blocking nobody because he just drops out. And we get a pass rush on the other side with a blitz or just a 3-man rush. So like the creativity and the options for the coaching staff and the headaches for the quarterbacks that you're talking about, it's just all this crap you're thinking about. And still they just got 11 on the other side. Yet it's like, it's mental gymnastics to try to figure out which 11. And those guys disappear. So I don't want to put too much into it in terms of that, but I would just think the energy was great, the crispness was great, and you can tell that there's a confidence of how they're doing things and what they're doing, and they're just sort of plugging the new people in and saying, like, hey, this is how we do things. So I think that was a takeaway. I thought Sam Darnold had an excellent day. From everyone I talked to, the other quarterbacks have had a good off season. I didn't think they had a great day collectively, on a whole, but like that's the off season, and it's ups and downs and competing and all that stuff, and that's how you get better. I always felt like I got better from making mistakes, and so like that's the right time to do it. When you get those opportunities, you try every club in your bag. But I think the arrow is definitely trending up for this team in just about every metric you can think about. And then at a certain point, even though it's tough at times, at a certain point it's almost helpful. Like you take a little bit from a lot of different coaches, and then you get with one coach who's really exceptional. For me, it was Mike Holmgren. In this case, I think Mike Macdonald for Sam, and you kind of put it all together. And then you have the pieces around you to help you be successful. And I think there's also something to like earning the respect of your locker room. That took me a little bit. I think it took him a little bit. I think he certainly has that now. I think he had it that 1 year in Minnesota, and I think he got it last year. But when you have that, it just gives you confidence, and you can kind of build on it. And you heard Sam talk a lot about the confidence that his mom and dad had in him when nobody else had confidence in him. So you can tell that kind of matters, like people believing in him. And so to now have the organization believe in him the way that they do, and his teammates and his coaches and even his new offensive coordinator, I think it's just going to give him so much more confidence to go out and play a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more like he did in college. And I just think he's scratching the surface of what he's going to be as a pro. I think he's got something to him, Jadarian Price. I like him. I like him a lot. The only thing is, like, I go back to the whole thing in pads. It's a little bit different, but I think I love the pick. I think it fits. This is going to be a running back by committee team. There's no doubt about that. And, I just think you add a lot of talent. Where I thought the Seahawks really needed to improve last year with the running back situation, I never really felt like the running backs were ever one or two in the progression. Like, if the running backs were going to catch a pass, it was because it was just a design screen, or they were like a check down. But they were never like number one, like an Alvin Kamara or like a Christian McCaffrey. And so if they could get either it's George Holani or Jadarian Price, like that's where I think like the fullness of this offense, kind of more the 49er Shanahan version of this offense, can really take off and make us harder to defend. It's not just wide receivers and tight ends that you got to think about, but having those running backs out of the backfield, free release, that's a very helpful thing to a quarterback.
This should terrify the rest of the NFL. Because what happened at Seahawks minicamp wasn't supposed to happen this fast. For years, Sam Darnold was the quarterback everyone doubted. Too inconsistent, too damaged, too many failed stops, too many people ready to write the final chapter of his career. But now, the conversation is changing. And after what coaches, reporters, and insiders witnessed in Seattle, there is a growing belief that the Seahawks may have found something far more dangerous than a simple comeback story. They may have found a quarterback who is only now discovering how good he can actually become. And if that's true, the rest of the league has a problem. Because the most surprising part isn't that Darnold looked good. It's how good he looked. Observers describe Darnold's minicamp performance with one word: exceptional. Not good, not solid. Exceptional. Reports coming out of practice described a quarterback completely in command of the offense. Aggressive decisions. Fast processing. Confident throws. Everything looked effortless. And that's what should worry NFL defenses. Because many analysts still act as if Darnold's breakout season was some kind of fluke. But inside Seattle, there is a very different belief forming. The belief is that last season wasn't his ceiling. It may have been his starting point, and if Darnold is improving, the offense around him may become even more dangerous. The Seahawks understand one thing: they cannot simply rely on the passing game.
They must become a dominant rushing football team.
Not just committed to running, efficient, explosive,
Consistent.
and that's where Seattle believes another major jump is coming.
Because the roster additions, the backfield upgrades, and the evolution of this offense are creating something that looks increasingly similar to the Shanahan-style attacks that have terrorized defenses across the NFL.
An offense where running backs aren't just emergency options.
They're weapons. And when defenses start worrying about backs, receivers, tight ends, and Darnold all at the same time,
Everything becomes harder to stop. But the offense isn't the only reason excitement is exploding in Seattle.
The defense may be even scarier. Many inside the organization believe Mike Macdonald is the secret sauce,
The mastermind.
the difference maker.
and nowhere is that more obvious than the creative ways Seattle plans to deploy rookie Nick Emenwari.
A player whose size, power, and versatility are already drawing comparisons to some of the most feared defensive enforcers Seattle has ever had.
Imagine lining up a defender who looks like a linebacker,
Hits like a linebacker,
Blitzes like a linebacker.
but is officially listed as a defensive back. Now, imagine moving him everywhere.
at safety,
At nickel.
even near the defensive line. For quarterbacks, that's a nightmare.
For offensive coordinators, it's chaos.
And for opposing offenses, it's mental warfare. And when you combine that defensive creativity with what is happening offensively,
A much bigger picture starts to emerge. The biggest takeaway from Seahawks minicamp wasn't a single throw.
It wasn't a single player. It was the energy,
the confidence, the belief. Veterans believe. Coaches believe. Teammates believe. And perhaps most importantly, Sam Darnold believes. He's talked openly about how much it meant when his parents believed in him while the football world doubted him. Now he has something even bigger, an entire organization standing behind him. And history has shown that when talented quarterbacks finally gain confidence, respect, and stability at the same time, their careers can change forever. Maybe Seattle is simply improving. Or maybe the NFL is watching the beginning of something far more dangerous. And if Sam Darnold is truly only scratching the surface, the Seahawks could be much closer to contention than anyone wants to admit.
Yo, mic check 1 to 2, -1, -2. Game over for this video, folks. Smash that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to stay in the huddle for more. This is NFL Madness, bringing the heat and signing out.